हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू आवर फोरेंसिक साइंस एमसीक्यू सीरीज। और आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे क्वेश्चन नंबर 27 से आगे के क्वेश्चंस। जैसे हमेशा पहले आप क्वेश्चंस को खुद सॉल्व करने की कोशिश करते हैं, फिर एक्सप्लेनेशन के थ्रू कॉन्सेप्ट को डीपली समझते हैं। आज भी उसी तरह से करेंगे। और रिमेंबर कि हमारा एम सिर्फ एग्जाम आंसर्स याद करना नहीं है, बल्कि कंसेप्ट को क्लियर करना है। ओके, सो लेट्स बिगिन। सो बिगिन विद द क्वेश्चन, which discipline analyzes drugs, poison, explosives and paint according to the handbook table? Okay, so the options are statistics, botany, biology, chemistry. Okay, so the question asked is which discipline mainly deal with analysis of drugs, poison, explosive and paint? Okay, so the correct option is option D, chemistry. Let's understand why. Okay, so whenever investigator recover a unknown powder, let me choose the pen first. So whenever investigator recover unknown powder, suspicious liquid, explosives, okay, and many other thing, okay, from a crime scene, so they cannot identify it by just looking at it. It has to be examined scientifically inside a forensic laboratory. Okay, any suspicious liquid found in crime scene, suppose any suspicious liquid found in a crime scene. So investigator perform some scientific experiment on it, then examine the suspicious liquid. Okay, this work is performed by the forensic chemistry. So forensic chemist analyze substance such as illegal drugs, poisonous chemical, explosive acids, okay, petroleum product and various medicines. So they can use advanced analytical instruments like chromatography, mass spectroscopy, FTIR and UV spectroscopy. इन सब टेक्निक्स की हेल्प से केमिकल के एग्जैक्ट कंपोजिशन को एग्जामिन किया जाता है। ओके, तो वेरियस प्रोसीजर्स होते हैं जिनके थ्रू केमिकल्स को एनालाइज किया जा सकता है। ओके, जैसे कि गैस क्रोमेटोग्राफी। अभी ये सब चीज हम डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे आगे जाके, जो लेक्चर सीरीज है ना, उसमें ये सब चीज डिटेल में पढ़ाया जाएगा आपको। मास स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी, अभी आप पहले फोरेंसिक साइंस का बेस बन रहा है, उसके बाद फिर इन सब चीजों को डिटेल में पढ़ाया जाएगा। FTIR एंड UV स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी, ये सब चीज, ये सब प्रोसेस होते हैं, ये कैन प्रोसेस होते हैं डिटरमाइन करने के लिए कि केमिकल के अंदर किस किस केमिकल का कितना कंपोजिशन है। ओके, यूवी स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी। ओके, सपोज पुलिस रिकवर अ व्हाइट पाउडर फ्रॉम सस्पेक्ट, इट मे बी शुगर, फ्लोर, narcotic drug. Okay, so only chemical analysis can confirm its identity. Similarly, after a bomb blast, explosive residues are chemically analyzed to identify the explosive used. Okay, so remember chemistry deal with chemical evidence present at the crime scene. Okay, let's move to the next question, which is ballistics and trajectory analysis are contribution of which discipline? So the options are chemistry and entomology, physics, or anthropology. So the correct answer is physics. Okay, now let's understand the concept. Okay, so ballistics is a scientific study of bullets, firearm and their motion. Okay, so ballistics here is a scientific study. Let me write scientific study of bullets, firearms and their motion. ओके, सो जो बैलिस्टिक्स होती है वो बुलेट्स और फायर आर्म्स की साइंटिफिक स्टडी होती है. सो वेन एवर अ फायर आर्म इज यूज इन अ क्राइम, investigator need to determine the direction of fire, bullet velocity, firing substance, and the position of the shooter. Okay, so all these calculations are based on the principle of physics, especially mechanics and projectile motion. Okay, so for example, when a bullet leaves a barrel of a gun, it follows a trajectory. By studying that trajectory, forensic expert can reconstruct how the shooting occurred. Physics also explains recoil, kinetic energy, momentum, and impact force, which are extremely important in firearm investigation. Okay, so this is why forensic ballistics is strongly connected with physics. Okay, so the correct option here is physics. If you see these word bullet, trajectory, ballistic, so answer is almost always physics. Okay, let's move to the next question. Which discipline contributes autopsy and injury analysis? Okay, so options are botany, biology, medicine, toxicology. So the correct answer here is medicine. Okay, so the question is, okay, now let's understand why. So autopsy, also called as post-mortem examination, is performed to determine the cause and manner of death. Okay, so let me write autopsy. Autopsy. Autopsy is post-mortem. Post. Okay, post-mortem examination. Let me write again. Post-mortem. Okay, is performed to determine to determine manner and cause of death. Cause and manner of death. Okay. So during an autopsy, doctor carefully examine both external and internal injuries, organs, and tissues. So forensic medicine help identify whether the death was natural, accidental, suicidal, or homicidal. So medical experts also estimate the type of weapon used, the severity of injury, and sometimes even the approximation time of death. Okay, for example, by examining stab wounds, gunshot injuries, or fractures, doctor can reconstruct how the victim was injured. So their observations become valuable scientific evidence in the court. Okay, so therefore, whenever you see an autopsy, injury examination, or cause of death, always associate it with forensic medicine. Okay, let's move to the next question. Question number 29. तो हो गया. अब question number 30. So question number 30 is, poison detection is primarily the contribution of which discipline? So the option is toxicology, chemistry, serology, odontology. Okay, so the correct answer is toxicology. Okay, so now let's understand the reason. Okay, so forensic toxicology is a branch that study poisons, drugs, alcohol, and other toxic substance present in biological samples. Okay, so experts examine blood, urine, stomach content, liver tissue, and other body fluids to detect poisonous chemical. So toxicology is extremely useful in cases of suspected poison, drug overdose, alcohol intoxication, and unexplained death. For example, someone dies after consuming contaminated food or poison. So toxicologists identify the toxic substance and determine whether it contributed to the person's death. So poison analysis is the primary responsibility of forensic toxicology. Okay. So remember one line formula. Toxicology equals to poison, drug, alcohol, toxic chemical. Okay. Toxicology equals to poisons, drugs, alcohol, and toxic chemicals. Okay, let's move to the next question. Okay, so the next question is skeletal identification is listed as a contribution of which discipline? Biology, anthropology, medicine, odontology. So this question asks which discipline is responsible for skeletal identification. So the correct option is anthropology. Let's understand the concept. So forensic anthropology deals with scientific examination of human bones and skeletal remains. Okay. So forensic anthropology is a scientific study of scientific study of human bones and skeletal remains. Okay. Sometimes investigators recover only a skeleton instead of complete body. In such situations, forensic anthropologists estimate the person's age, sex, height, ancestry, and sometimes even identify the individual. So this branch become extremely important in mass disaster, old burial cases, decomposed bodies, and unidentified human remains. So bones contain valuable biological information, and by studying their structure and measurement, expert can reconstruct the identity of the deceased. Okay, so therefore skeletal identification is one of the most important application of forensic anthropology. So anthropology is equals to bones, skeleton, human identification. Okay, remember this. Let's move to the next question. Okay, so we have completed questions from 27 to 30. I hope the concepts are now much clear. So don't memorize the answers. Understand the reason behind each one of the following because that helps in exams and other forensic exams. And then okay, so we will moving to the next question. So the question is estimation of post-mortem interval is associated with which discipline? Okay, so options are entomology, statistics, toxicology, botany. Okay, so generally the question is which discipline help in estimating the post-mortem interval, that is time elapsed since death. Okay, so the correct answer is entomology. Okay, so now let's understand the concept. So forensic entomology is the study of insect associated with dead bodies. So after death, insects such as blowflies are usually the first organism to reach the body and lay eggs. These eggs gradually develop into larvae, then pupae, and finally adult flies. Okay, so since the life cycle of these insects is certain scientifically known, so forensic experts can estimate how long the body has been exposed after death. This estimation is called post-mortem interval, which is PMI. Okay, so for example, if an investigator find third stage maggot on a body, So they can estimate the approximate time since death by comparing the insect development stage with environmental conditions such as temperature or humidity. Okay, so although other methods are also used, insect evidence becomes especially valuable when the body is highly decomposed. Okay, so entomology is was to study of the life cycle of insects. Okay, which help in determining the post-mortem interval. Okay, this is the related to the life cycle of insect. Okay, mainly which insect is bowflies. Okay, bowflies to determine the post-mortem interval. PMI, post-mortem interval. Okay, let's move to the question. Next question, which is plant and pollen evidences is examined under which discipline? Okay, so the question is, it asks which discipline examine plant material and pollen evidence recovered from the crime scene. So the options are botany, biology, entomology, chemistry. So the correct option is botany. Okay, let's understand why. So forensic botany deal with scientific examination of plant related evidence such as leaves, flowers, seed, wood fragment, pollen grains, and spores. So many times in suspect unknowingly carry plant material on their cloth, shoes, or vehicles. So these microscopic plant remains can connect a suspect with a particular location or crime scene. Okay, so pollen grain are especially useful because these are extremely small, resistant, and unique specific plant species. Their presence can establish where a person and object has been. So forensic botany is also useful in wildlife crimes, illegal timber trades, and environmental investigations. Okay, so remember this association. Botany, botany is related to plants, leaves, seeds, pollen, wood. Okay, let's move to the question number 34, which is cyber and mobile forensics are listed as contribution of which discipline? Okay, so nowadays many crimes are committed using mobile phone, computers, and internet. So this question asks why which discipline deal with this question asks which discipline deal with cyber and mobile forensics. Okay, so the options are statistics, chemistry, digital science, and physics. So as we have an idea, okay, so the correct option is digital science. So digital forensics focus on collecting, preserving, and analyzing electronic evidence. Okay, so expert recover deleted files, examine mobile phones, laptop, hard disk, emails, CCTV recording, cloud storage, and social media data. Even if suspect delete message or files, forensic softwares can recover them. These digital records become valuable evidence in cases involve cybercrime, financial fraud, hacking, online harassments, and identity theft. Okay, so as a technology continue to grow, digital forensics has become one of the fastest growing branch of forensic science. ओके ओके और हमारा एक अलग डिसिप्लिन भी होता है मतलब DSSB में जैसे FSL में एक अलग डिसिप्लिन या डिवीजन है which is cyber forensics. Okay, so whenever you hear about digital science, related it with a computer, mobile, internet, and electronic evidences. Let's move to the next question, which is Probability and evidence evaluation are contribution of which discipline? Okay. So this question asks which discipline is mainly responsible for probability calculation and evidence evaluation. Okay, so the options are physics, biology, statistics, and medicine. Okay, so the correct option is statistics. Let's understand the importance of statistics in forensic science. So the forensic scientists often need to determine how reliable scientific evidence is. For example, DNA profiling does not simply say two sample match. It also calculates the probability that another unrelated person could have the same profile. Okay. So similarly, fingerprint analysis, population studies, and evidence interpretation frequently so involve scientific statistical methods. Okay. So statistics help expert express scientific finding with numerical confidence, making forensic conclusion more reliable and objective. Okay. Without statistical analysis, it would be difficult to explain the significance of forensic evidence in the court. Okay. So remember the fact statistics is equals to probability, data analysis, evidence evaluation, DNA match probability. Okay. So let me write some here. Statistics is equals to probability plus data analysis plus evidence evaluation DNA profiling DNA match probability. Let's move to the next question. Question number 36. Okay. So in a basic workflow of forensic investigation, which steps come immediately after cybercrime secured? Cyber scene secured. Option A is packaging and labeling, B is transportation, C is laboratory examination, D is evidence collection. Okay, now we are starting the basic forensic investigation workflow, which is important for competitive examination. Okay, so the question asked is, after securing the crime scene, what should investigator do next? So the correct answer is evidence collection. Let's understand the sequence. The very first responsibility of investigator is to secure the crime scene. Okay, the first responsibility is secure a crime scene. Secure a crime scene. This prevents unauthorized entry and protect evidence from contamination, damage, or loss. Once the scene is secured, investigators begin collecting all relevant evidences such as fingerprint, blood stain, fibers, weapons, footprints, biological sample, and other trace material. So the next is evidence collection. Evidence collection. Evidence must be collected carefully using appropriate techniques because mistake at this stage may permanently destroy valuable information. Proper documentation, photography, and systematic collection that ensures the evidence remain reliable throughout the investigation. Therefore, evidence collection is always the next step after securing the crime scene. Okay, so the next step is also I'm written here, which is packaging and labeling. Okay, so this is the order frequently asked in DSSSB Junior Scientific assistant examination, and other forensic science related examinations. Let's move to the next question. Okay, so we have completed few more questions. Let's move to the next question. So the next question is, after evidence collection, what is the next step in the workflow? So the options are scientific analysis, packaging and labeling, court testimony, interpretation. Okay, so the correct answer is packaging and labeling. Okay, let's understand why this step is so important. So collecting evidence alone is not enough. Once the evidence is recovered, it must be properly packed using suitable container such as paper bag, envelopes, plastic container, glass bottle, depending on the nature of evidence. Okay, so the proper packaging protect the evidence from contamination, moisture, breakage, and loss during transportation. At the same time, every evidence packet must be labeled with important information such as the case number, date, place of recovery, description of the item, and the name of the investigating officer. Incorrect packaging can damage DNA sample, fingerprints, trace evidence, and make them unusable in court. Therefore, packaging and labeling is one of the most critical steps in maintaining the integrity of forensic evidences. Okay, so the next step, as we know, is packaging and labeling. Always remember the order because it is frequently asked in forensic examinations. Okay, moving to the next question, which is transportation. Question is transportation of evidence is followed by. Okay, so the options are laboratory examination, crime scene secured, expert opinion, court testimony. So this question generally asks, once the evidence has been transported safely to the forensic laboratory, what is the next step? So the correct option is answer is laboratory examination. Okay, let's understand the concept. So after evidence reach the laboratory, forensic experts begin a detailed scientific examination using specialized instrument and standard operating procedures. So different type of evidences are sent to different divisions. Blood and biological samples go to the biology DNA section. Suspected drugs and poison go to the chemistry section. Bullets are examined in ballistic section, and the fingerprints are analyzed in a fingerprint division. So during laboratory examination, scientific identify, compare, and document every piece of evidence. Okay, so the quality of the examination directly affect the accuracy of the final forensic report. Okay, so remember this thing. After the transportation, the, the evidence will go through a laboratory examination. So never confuse laboratory examination with scientific analysis. Okay, examination come first, then followed by the detailed analysis. Let's move to the next question, which is what is the final step of basic forensic investigation workflow? Okay, so the options are expert opinion, court testimony, interpretation, and scientific analysis. So the correct option is court testimony. Okay, so let's understand why. So the purpose of forensic science is not to analyze evidence, but also to present scientific findings before the court. So once laboratory examination, scientific analysis, interpretation, and expert opinion are completed, the forensic expert may called as a expert witness. Okay, so during court testimony, the expert explain the method used, observation made, and the conclusion reached. The expert must remain neutral and present only scientific facts without favoring either side. A clear and scientifically accurate testimony helps the judge understand the complex forensic evidence and contribute to the fair judicial decision. Okay, so the court testimony is the final step of an investigation. So whenever the question asks about the last stage, remember court testimony. So I think this question is incorrect. Okay, let me cut this question from here. This is wrong. Okay. Okay. So congratulations, we have successfully completed question 26 to 40 of our Forensic Science MCQ series. I hope these explanations help you understand not only the correct answer but also the concept behind them. Okay, so my advice is to revise these questions once again after today's class and make a short note of the keyword we have discussed. So if you found the lecture helpful, don't forget to like video and share it with your fellow students and subscribe to our channel for upcoming lectures. In the next class, we will continue with the next set of important MCQs. Until then, keep learning, keep practicing, and stay focused on your goal. Thank you, everyone. Jai Hind.